Greetings, everyone. This is Ehav Ever from the Chronicles of Ehav Ever, and today's video is concerning the issue of what to follow and who to follow. What does the Tanakh say? So this is just mainly focused on Jews who keep Torah Moshe. As you've seen in other videos, I define what that means. I won't rehash it here. But sometimes the issue that comes up would be like what to do if we have questions about the Torah. What's the starting point? So I'll be describing in this video exactly what the Torah perspective is from the Tanakh is on that. So I've talked about this in other videos in the past, and the question sometimes is, well, what's a good source for, what to do and how to understand what to do and where do you find it? So of course, as always, you have to look for something that is, Torah based, that's ancient, authentic, and authoritative. So, what that means is pretty simple for anyone who's within a Torah-based community, meaning that, for example, as I've said many times in many of my videos, the Torah in Hebrew is the source. That's the starting point because that's the foundation. Translations are not the foundation, and they're not, the way any Torah-based Jew makes a final decision. And also, like, kind of strange ideas and terminology that don't match a certain methodology of the Torah, that are foreign to the Torah and foreign to the Jewish community are things we also don't go for. So in detail, I'll show, at least three parts of the Tanakh that discuss this issue and exactly how a Torah-based Jew would have to approach it based on the Tanakh. So the first step comes from that at least I'm presenting as the first step comes from the book of Devarim in the Torah, and it's in chapter 32, Lamed Vet, and it says the following in verse 7 or Zayin. It says Zechor Yemod Olam. So it's like remember the days of the world or the way things are, the ways of reality, or it's almost like saying also remember the past. Binu Shenoth Dor Wador. So it's like this is also another expression of remembering the past, understand the years of the generations. And concerning this issue of remembering the past, one of the things it mentions in the green from the Torah is Sha'al Avicho wa. So it's like ask your father and he'll tell you. So that's like the first step. A Torah-based Jew, if there's a question that comes up about, well, how do I understand the Torah? How do I understand the mitzvot? How do I understand, a certain idea? The first starting point that the Torah gives is, ask your father. Especially this is true of, if a person's father, is Torah based, so if a person comes from a Torah based family, the first step is to start with their father. And then concerning also who to ask, it says, for example, Sha'al avicha wa yajedacho, zekonecho wa yamoruloch. So also says here, zekonecho is like saying the elders of your community, as well as you could even say like the rabbis or the leaders of the community. And, of course, there's commentaries that kind of go further into this that, basically this is talking about, one in the Nevi'im, that are, leaders of the Jewish community, as well as, those who, were like the Shoftim, the judges of the community, which are also like positions of leadership. So the starting point that this particular part of the Torah gives is like, starting with one's father, starting with one's, person who taught them Torah, and then also starting with one's community. So let's say a person says, well, okay, my father passed away when I was young. I didn't learn anything from him, or my father, didn't keep Torah. Where do I go then? Well, the next step says is the Zekanecho. So let's say a person is like, let's say Moroccan. You go to the Moroccan Jewish community and find the rabbis or the leaders from those communities. And that's where the Torah tells a person to start. So the next thing that I usually pull out of this from this understanding is from the book of Yeshayahu, um, which is Isaiah from chapter 8, and it says the following: "Lethorah u'lith'udah im lo yamaruk davar hazeh asher ein lo shohar." So in the translating this means if you go to the very top and remember he was read from right to left, in the green it says Torah, so to the Torah, and then in the light blue it says walith udal. So to the lith udal means is the Teudah, like to the Teudah, and Teudah has like several meanings that one could translate into English. One of them is like the revelation. One of them is the tradition. One of them is like, Teudah, for example, also is like something you use to identify something. So in modern Hebrew, for example, our ID card, which identifies who you are in Israel, is called the Teudat Zehut. So Teudat Zehut means like, something that identifies you, who you are, your identification. So then it says, if, imlo yamoru kadavar hazeh. So if a matter doesn't speak like the Torah and the Teudah, in asher ein lo shohar. So it doesn't have like any dawn to it. So the word shohar, which is that last word, essentially is like the transition between darkness to light. So it's like the point in the morning, for example, when it's like pretty much between dark and becoming light pretty soon. So that basically means that if something doesn't match the Torah and the Teudah that's found amongst the Torah-based Jewish community, that a person should not hold by it because it has no like transition from darkness into light. It has no worth, for example. So then the last place that I, for example, would use in this area is, person could ask the question, okay, well, how would any, Torah-based Jew have this information passed down, to know what the Torah and the Teudah is? Well, the answer is very simple because there's a mitzvah in the Torah that essentially says the following, and this is in the book of Devarim, 6:6, chapter 6, verse 6. And essentially what it says is the following. "Wahuyu devarim ha'eleh asher anochi mitzawacho hayam al levavecho." So this is the statement that Moshe Rabbeinu makes to the generation that's about to go into the land of Israel. And he says, like in the these things, these matters, that I have like, commanded you, Asher Anochi Mitzawacho, like Hayom today, I love Avecho, so that be on your heart. And then in the next verse, what it says is like 6, 7. It says, "Veshinantam levonecho with ibarto bom." So you will teach them to your sons, and you'll speak them. And then, for example, it says, and then that was in the green. And in the last part, it says, "B'shivdecho bevetecho, v'letocho v'derech, ushabecho uvgomecho." So basically, while a person's like sitting in their home, while they're on their way, and then also when they lay down and when they rise. So essentially, what this means is that a Torah-based community and a Torah-based family, is supposed to be, dealing with Torah from the time that they wake up in the morning to the time they go to bed, whether they're at home, whether they're outside of the home. So this is the way that a person, keeps Torah would know, exactly, what to follow and who to follow, because the Torah gives us very specific commands, that we have leaders of our community as well, especially our fathers, being our, first line of leadership, for example, but then like a person can say, well, my father didn't keep Torah, what do I do then? Well, you find the leaders of the community that your family came from, and that's who you hold by, and they, in a sense, become like your father in terms of Torah. And then any person who presents something would have to present the Torah and the Teudah, that proves, what they're saying is true. And if not, if they have no connection to that, then, it has no dawn in it. And then like the next step is that a person should be teaching their son whatever Torah they receive. And that's how you guarantee that your children and your grandchildren, for example, will be the ones who be keeping Torah. And then whenever there are questions, they know exactly where to go. So in conclusion, what this basically means is, as an example, let's say that someone wants to tell me that the Torah says something. Well, this right here in this picture that you see is an actual Torah, and it's this one's about 800 years old. So if a person can't pull out a Torah scroll, for example, and read it, then there's no reason for me to listen to them because of the fact that they are not speaking the way that Am Yisrael have spoken amongst the leadership. They're not speaking the ways of the Torah. They're also, for example, if they can't show me in the Hebrew, for example, where they're getting something or coming from, they're also, for example, not standing up to the standard that Yeshayahu basically mentions of the Torah and the Teudah, because this is the Torah. Translations into English are not the Torah. This is the Torah, and the Teudah about it comes from, those who've taught this Torah and have taught Am Yisrael how to understand it and how to even read it. Because of course, a person has to learn how to read Hebrew in order to understand it, and then they have to also learn the culture and the language around the text, which is thousands of years old, in which, culture changes over time, but there are certain foundations that are, part of understanding how it was understood when it was given in that time frame. So this again is Ehav Ever from the Chronicles of Ehav Ever. So thank you for listening. Take care and bye.